everyone, Alicia here from GrowthMatch, and today we're hearing from Dan Gower about how companies can enhance their go-to-market strategy by building sales sequences. Let's go ahead and start with a brief introduction. Can you tell us about who you are and what you specialize in?
Sure. I'm Dan Gower. I'm based in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm the owner of Buddy Gardner Advertising, which occasionally includes a cast of freelancers and contractors, but it's mostly me putting on my best one-man show here from my spare bedroom. I was an IT business analyst several years ago, and I started taking on freelance writing work on the side as kind of a creative outlet. One thing led to another. A little bit of skill and a little bit of hard work and a ton of luck. And, a few things kind of fell into my lap early on. And I ended up quitting my day job and becoming self-employed full time. And since then, I've really started to specialize in direct response copywriting. So especially creating sales sequences and things like that, and especially in the B2B space. So a lot of my clients have B2B SaaS products and similar offerings.
Awesome. And what's your experience working so far in this industry?
Well, I've written about 850 sales sequences so far, and a lot of thousands of pieces of supporting marketing content. So landing pages, case studies, articles. Because when you're creating multi-step sales sequences, you also need content to include, to link to. So I help establish that as well if the client doesn't have a lot of case studies or articles. But most importantly, through the process of doing that, I've worked with some of the best marketing and sales teams and some of the best sales leaders in the space, especially when you're talking about people who specialize in B2B sales. So it's been a lot of good learning opportunities, and I've had the chance to work with teams at all kinds of companies, from tech giants that are Fortune 500 companies to scrappy startups that are just starting to build their kind of go-to-market muscle.
That's great. And what is the most common mistake you see people making when it comes to building their sales sequences, and how do you see that being avoided?
I think the biggest mistake is that people don't tailor their content as well as they should have. So, what I mean by that is that you're using the same kind of sales sequence or the same email or the same messaging over and over and over again. Imagine if you have a B2B sales, a B2B SaaS product, and you sell to, it's valuable across five different industries or verticals. And then within each industry, you have benefits that are applicable to three different levels or personas within that company. So, individual contributors, people who are at the director level, and then people who are at the VP level and above. So, like VPs and C-suite. If you write an email that's trying to talk to everybody at once across all of those industries and across all of those titles, you end up with really vague language. Like, so whether you're an entry level engineer or you're the CFO, we can help you. Or, this product has benefits for businesses ranging from real estate companies to e-commerce brands. And so you just end up talking about the benefits of your product or the features of your product instead of the benefits that people will experience in a certain industry or in a certain role. And so what you do when you cast a wide net like that is that you guarantee that at least some of your messaging will be irrelevant to the person who's reading it. So what you're trying to do is like be more relevant to more people, but you end up just making it kind of relevant to everybody, and that's not really convincing. So casting a wide net like that, or trying to cast a wide net, I would say is the biggest problem that I see. And the solution is to segment your audience really well. By the industry or vertical, by the title or level, sometimes even by field. Like, for example, if you are selling into HR teams and IT teams within the same kind of company, then you would want to separate it even further out. So when you do that, you can create hyper relevant sales sequences and marketing content that speaks to one persona instead of trying to please everybody at once. And that allows you to focus on their needs, because when you have a defined persona, You know what that person, what is awful about their job that they're trying to change, what they need to do to get a raise in 2023, how their metric, what their boss wants from them, and what they want to deliver for their boss. And when you know that about a person, you can speak to how that product helps them, which is what people ultimately care about. No one cares about the features of your product; they care about what it can do for them. And an example that I always love to use, which is actually it's a consumer facing product, but when the iPod was launched, they didn't say like, oh, this has 4 GB or whatever it is of memory space, um, and the dimensions are 2 inches by 3 inches. They didn't talk about the features of their product at all. They said 2,000 songs in your pocket or whatever it was. So instead of focusing on the features of the product, which were impressive, but people might not even fully understand them, they got right to the heart of what does this mean for you, the person reading this, and it was way more compelling that way. And so I think that when you segment, you're able to do things like that because you understand who your personas are, and therefore you understand what they're looking for and what they can get out of your offering.
Wow, that's amazing. I love how you said that phrase hyper relevant. That just is amazing to really niche down and have those people understand what those benefits are for the product. And when you're working on companies to do this, what kind of results do you end up achieving for them? And what is it about what you do specifically that gets them there?
Well, the simple answer is that I'm trying to help sales teams get more positive responses from their cadences, whether inbound or outbound, and ultimately just sell more. Um, and I'm kind of wary of people who make blanket promises about achieving a certain open rate or response rate. I see people out there who say like, "Oh, if I write your sequences, I'll guarantee a 5% response rate," which to me seems a little bit reckless. Of course, that's always the goal, but I would never promise a certain response rate just because I don't know how good your pipeline is. I don't know if the prospects that you have are even your ideal buyer personas. Um, but that said, I've earned a lot of repeat business and some glowing reviews because of my ability to get results for my clients. So I think that it's safe to say that I have been achieving those positive outcomes for my clients. And the way that I do it is, kind of like I said a minute ago, more relevant messaging instead of fake personalization. When I talk about fake personalization, I'm talking about just cramming the prospect's name into a generic message a bunch of times, or you know, we work with businesses like yours is a phrase that you see a lot in fake personalized emails because it doesn't really say what that business type is or what you're doing for them, what makes the clients like the prospect's business. So I'd say avoiding that fake personalization is huge, and then also focusing on brief, clear, and direct messaging. Just remembering that no one cares about you or your offering; they care about themselves and their goals. So focusing on the prospect benefits over the product features helps. And then finally, I think a big key is building thoughtful sales sequences or cadences to add value over time and kind of warm that relationship up before you start going in and moving things towards asking for a discovery call. I think that's really valuable as opposed to, because if you write like one glowing sales email, but you don't have a full sequence, then you're swinging for the fences on your first approach. Try to create one sales email and think that that's going to be enough to demonstrate any kind of value to someone that would warrant further conversation.
Awesome. Definitely want to avoid doing that. So if somebody is interested in working with you, how can they explore that?
I would say the first thing is let's get on a discovery call and talk about just an introductory call and talk about your current sales process. I'd love to learn more about how you're using automation, how you're building your sequences, who your personas are, just kind of what your sales team looks like, things like that, and see where the opportunities are. And I think a good introductory project would be to have a working session and build out buyer personas. And then, that gives you the opportunity to really segment, kind of by those qualities that I was talking about, by industry, by title, um, things like that. And that way, if you want to continue afterwards by developing sequences to speak to all of those different personas, we can go forward from there. And if you don't want to, then you're left with a complete deck of buyer personas that your sales team can use internally.
That's great. Thank you so much, Dan, for chatting with me today. If you are interested in connecting with Dan, definitely click the link here and visit their profile at growthmatch.com to schedule a discovery call. Thanks so much.